We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
I could smite your confusion, clothe you in knowing, unveil the pretense parading as reality. Mark direction to those of you having set sail, whom are seeking passage beyond too often bizarre realm. Those of you unafraid of unknown depths, skirting shores, knowing world flat. I'm with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion, fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. The seeker of lost paradise may seem a fool to those whom have never sought the other worlds. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on truthfrequencyradio.com. I do appreciate those of you that have taken time to join me this evening. I have as guests with me two of my really good friends and fellow broadcasters, the Hijacker and Mr. Rowe, of whom I've met on a different network. But I'm really excited to talk about the journey of discovery on not only as far as the flat earth being the end game, as far as the conspiratorial side of awakening to the truth of what's going on in the world, but as well as other issues. And I know that the journey of awakening is similar in that we all kind of walk the same road. I know 9/11 was a catalyst for most of us. It certainly did light the fire and inflame the passion of research and discovery for especially this generation and coming to truth on so many esoteric subjects. But the Hijacker was the first one to kind of spur me along and to open my eyes to the possibility of flat earth as topic and reality for model of world. And so this evening we're going to talk about the journey of awakening and do kind of a round table to share the insight into this particularly intriguing topic. And so let me go ahead and introduce the Hijacker. Are you there, brother?
I am, Zen. How am I coming through?
You sound great. You sound really clear and really loud. So I'm glad to have both you and Mr. Rowe. But if you would, Jacker, go ahead and just tell people kind of about yourself, and if you've got anything that's going on as far as a channel where people can go to support your work or website or anything of that nature.
Right. Well, I wanted to give a thumbnail sketch of basically our joint journeys, and because it's very symbolic, very, very spiritual. It's something that most people will not believe. And so let me just give you the gist. So I'm sitting in Aristotle's cave. I'm in darkness. I've been at spiritual war for 28 years, mainly political type of warfare. I got all the pieces to the puzzle. I've been locked up dozens and dozens of times. Literally, I lost count, over 30. All illegal, free speech, religious, political free speach. One state after another. I couldn't understand why all this was happening to me. I had a jigsaw puzzle with 500 pieces. I couldn't put it together what was happening to me. And then this guy, Zen Garcia, comes along and he pulls out this key. And basically, I get the book, The Sons of God, Who We Are and Why We're Here. And Zen puts the key in the lock, and I'm looking at the shadows on the wall in my darkness, trying to understand how the whole world works. And then he says, it's the serpent seed line. That's the line of Cain. You're not getting it, Hijacker. It's about, there's another bloodline. And so once I got into Zen's work, basically Zen unlocked those chains. I put the jigsaw puzzle together, completely understood it. But here's the kicker. So um, we became really good friends over the years. We did a lot of shows together, and I mean really good friends, with true, honest, brotherly love and friendship. And so then I trip across this thing, flat Earth. I get into it, so I'm real excited. So I see that Zen still believes um, in this globalist demonic lie system. He doesn't know about the flat Earth. So I take my key and I try to unlock him, and he just laughs at me. And I says, no, no, Zen, the Earth really is flat. He laughs at me some more. And so after a couple of times, I says, come on, Zen. And Zen says, Jacker, look, I'm educated, all right? You're not. I've been to college. I've studied astronomy. I know the planets are round. Everything is round. I know about eclipses, and he basically laughed at me, and it got to the point to where you could almost hear his words where he was saying, Jacker, your mind, you got to get control. Because this is what Zen actually thought. This is what I think he thought. He thought, because sometimes when people find out about the serpent seed line, and if there's shapeshifters among us, there's this other bloodline among us, sometimes their minds can't handle it. They flip out. And so Zen was laughing at me, and I could just hear it in his voice. I wish I never told Jacker about the serpent seed line, because now he's completely flipped out, and he's lost his mind. And so I couldn't. Zen would not let me basically put the key and unlock him. So I just set the key down, and this is what I did. This is what the Lord told me to do. He says, break off your friendship. You guys love each other. It's the only way to shock Zen. Don't fellowship with him at all. And I can even remember the email that I sent you, Zen, when I broke off with you. I says, Zen, when I first met you, I finally met somebody greater than myself. I was happy, but I can't walk with you no more. And, I can't do fellowship with you anymore. And I had to walk away. Well, it turns out, I guess it must have done something to Zen where Zen said, okay, I'll check it. I mean, for Jacker to walk away, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And so then a few weeks later, I found out that Zen, he had become a flat earther. Zen picked the key up. He unlocked himself, and he goes, now I'm free. And so in a way, Zen, by freeing me, this is how spiritual is. By freeing me and showing me about the serpent seed line, he actually freed himself about the flat earth. And of course, everybody knows the rest of the story. But I just wanted to give that story, Zen, because it's just it's one of those really highly spiritual weird type of things that's happened. But anyways, you got other guests? Go ahead, Zen.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people approach this with great hesitancy. And I was certainly not on board, and I wasn't going to buy into it until, I did the research and opened myself to the possibility. And then I came full circle. And even Ro, he knew about this before I was. And both of you guys have seen my journey as far as coming to acceptance on this as truth. Mr. Rowe, you want to give a shout out to the listening audience and also let people know where they can go to listen to you and to support your work, brother?
All right. Yeah, my name is Mr. Rowe. This is the moniker that I go by. I come from a professional background. In fact, I used to actually work for defense contractors, one of which was TRW, Thompson Ramo Woolridge, which made satellites, participated in satellite launches.
Wow.
So, yeah. Now, first off, a little bit about my shows. I'm on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, where this topic is a banned topic. That's by choice of the network. But you can find my shows. I have two shows, Mondays and Tuesdays, a 1-hour show. It's called Roe's Corner, at the corner of Roe and What the WTF. And that's on Studio A from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And then I have my main show, Reality Extraction, which I've actually interviewed Mark Sargent, I've interviewed Matthew Powerland, and a few other folks. But specifically for this topic, the flat Earth topic, I've talked to Mark Sargent and Matthew Powerland on Reality Extraction, and that is on Thursdays at 5 Pacific time. I'm going to play kind of a, not really devil's advocate, but I do take a neutral standpoint. I am convinced that we're not being told the truth about just about everything, including the nature of our planet. Now, I don't see it as cut and dry as it's either round or flat. I am actually looking at the concept that we may be deceived on both fronts. It is possibly, imagine that we are on kind of a sphere that may be only half of what we think. So we may only occupy part of a much larger sphere in space. This is something I've been looking into. So I personally haven't been shown foolproof either way. I can kind of take the neutral standpoint, which is kind of what I do as a researcher on my show. And so not being entirely convinced on both sides, I just sort of like to stand back and see where this is going, because there's a lot of infighting amongst the, not only just the flat Earth community, if you will, but the truth community. So everything must be taken with a grain of salt. Some folks are talking about, well, you see there's a split. There's I think 3 or 4 different research types of boards, and like I did the interview with Powerland, who is a little bit different standpoint than Mark Sargent or Eric Dubai. So I do find it a very fascinating topic, and I also have entertained the idea that we are on an artificial construct as well, in the middle of, so that we may be like pets. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I'll turn it back over to you, Zen. And how are you doing there, Hijacker?
Pretty good, Mr. O. Yeah. What Mr. O's talking about is the different models. Some people believe we're on an infinite plane. Some people, which I think is actually biblical, believe we're like in a snow globe with Antarctica as an ice ring all the way around the planet, which people have sailed, something like 69,000 miles, I think it was. Admiral Cook, I think. And then and there's a dome, a glass dome over us. And that's actually the biblical model. There's over 400 scriptures that basically lay out what the biblical model is. And it is a flat, enclosed dome type system. And then you have the Eric Dubay, which, how I came to flat Earth, I laughed at it. Everybody laughs at it. It's just so insane. You got to laugh at it. But because I was working with Terrell at the time about the black dwarf star coming, wormwood, if you're a Christian. So I says, well, I know all about there's just no way this flat Earth can be, because I know about Terrell's work and the black dwarf star. Well, when you actually take a look at that model, it doesn't work. So I checked out this guy, Matthew Powerland. He was my first one. And I saw the interview with him, Boylan Powerland, and I saw, an insider NASA's view of him. And I says, and there was enough truth there. I says, this can't be right. And so then the next thing I did is the Flat Earth Conspiracy, Eric Dubay. And within 2 hours, I was a flat earther. Eric Dubay won me over. All the arguments were solid. So I'm sort of like a Matthew Powerland. He opened up the door. Eric Dubay. So I'm kind of like a Dubayite in the sense that he's the one that convinced me. And then his model, though, is more of a Buddhist type that, the earth is flat, but we're all in a dream of God, and we're all parts of God. Zen would know this more, studying all these Eastern religions, what exactly Eric means. But so, those are the 3 main models: the infinite plane, the enclosed dome world, and then you got Eric Dubay, we're in a dream. but it's still flat. It's dream world. And then there's one other really whacked out one, which is even harder to believe than a baller, and that's that this Stephen guy who basically says he's the Lord or whatever, and he says that we're in a concave or concave. We're inside of a giant ball, but that's what Mr. Rowe's talking about. But yeah, I'm doing great, Mr. Rowe. You do great work. You do a lot of work, and I do appreciate your shows, especially the one you did recently on Islam. If anybody wants to really know the inside scoop of Islam, Mr. Rowe had this scholar who used to be a Islamic scholar and has now become a Christian. And you will not hear anything more savage to Islam, to really rip off the mask of what the religion of Islam is all about, than that interview that Mr. Rowe did 2 weeks ago. And you could probably get it in the archives over there. But anyways, then go ahead. I'm motor mouthing. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I wanted to say that, Mr. Rowe, I think you're wise to be, to not declare one way or the other, especially if you're still in the process of investigation. And with this really being a new topic, as far, even though it's been old, thousands of years, and has been in great deliberation, specifically in the 1800s, like with Samuel Rowbotham and the other individual, the guy that wrote Terra Firma, and were many other books that were written, during that time, which were deliberating on all of this information, and especially since the last 500 years with Tycho Brahe and the deliberations over Copernicus and the whole assertion as far as heliocentrism. So I think you're wise to be hesitant and to not make, to say one way or the other until you really do a lot of the research. And because we really don't know as far as the specifics on, I personally ascribe to the biblical model, which in my opinion is describing like Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, with the circle of the earth, and then enclosed the firmament, which is fitted above and to it, similar to a snow globe model. But as I said, as far as especially those that don't do a lot of research or give a lot of credit to the gospel narrative and to the biblical story, those that only approach it from a scientific angle, there's a lot yet to be determined. And I know myself, I really first began to investigate this topic in, I think it was July of last year, even though people were trying to get me to look at it for several months prior. Even Jacker, I remember you were calling in on one of my shows, and because I had studied astronomy as my science for 3 years in college, I thought I knew absolutely different and better. And so it was very difficult to convince me even to open myself to the research, to actually approach it and to with a serious manner without any kind of judgment or bias. And so, I was extremely hesitant. I'm sure it was similar for all of you. I had laughed and scoffed at it. But when I initially did begin to do the research and discovered that, in my opinion, that there's no measurable curvature as far as, being able to see monuments and cityscapes and like the Statue of Liberty and lighthouses over extreme distances in excess of 30, 40, 50 miles, when according to the scientific model, it should not be possible. And these kind of things being able to be seen at such distances, they should be below the curvature and the horizon and not be able to be seen in the way that we are absolutely able to see them. And videotape them and photograph them. And then when I actually looked into the science as far as the supposed rate of rotation and associated to the movement of the Earth, that it's supposed to be spinning at 1,038 miles an hour at the equator. Um, and I learned that the actual science verifies that the Earth is not moving, is immobile and stationary, um, and that the experiments which were done to try to determine the supposed rate of spin and the velocity of the Earth in moving towards the east, as it's supposedly, spinning on an axis once every 24 hours, which creates the day, the sun going down, that it's the movement of the Earth which is supposedly causing the sun to go down for sunset and also to rise once we spin towards it, to create sunrise. And so when I learned that that there is no movement, no velocity, and no that the Earth is stationary, as it says in Scripture, well, then I really began to look into it, and now I've dedicated a large part of my time to doing so. And then when I actually um, revisited the book of Enoch, the book on the courses of the heavenly luminaries, and figured out in Revelation that you can only understand the movement and the motions that are being described by Enoch, attributed to the sun and the moon, if you apply it to the map of the earth as is depicted on the United Nations map, the azimuthal equidistant projection map with the North Pole at its center. That is the only way you can understand all of those chapters, those 14 chapters. Then I decided to write my book about it, because most people can't make heads or tails of those chapters, especially those chapters which talk about the motions of the sun. And it was in the process of writing that book that I came to clarity on the biblical narrative in connection to this, as well as so many other things, because I had to really study it and come to understanding on the scientific aspects of it, in order to be able to write and complete that book. But let me go to you, Jacker, and talk a little bit. We're almost to our first break, too, but if you would elaborate a little bit more on some of the details, like I would mention curvature and the earth not being moving. What was it that actually, what were a few of the things that made you, scratch your head and deliberate and wonder about it, and then come to understanding that we had been lied to?
Yeah, well, I would describe myself then as literally a flat Earth master warrior. I mean, there's literally nobody that could get into debate or come up with a question about the flat Earth or the spinning ball, which I could not quickly overcome. In fact, I got an open invitation to Terrell 03 and his black dwarf star theory to debate me about flat Earth, but nobody will debate. You will find that nobody debates flat Earth. They will just laugh, or they'll just drop a microphone saying, "See gravity." There is no debating, because when you engage, particularly somebody like me, who doesn't think that the Earth is flat, I know it. I mean, I'm so way past it. But so I have so many arguments that there's just like, where do you start? But the one thing that really made me stop, and I guess locked it up for me, was the stars, particularly the pole star. So now the pole star is Polaris. All the stars, quote unquote, in the northern hemisphere, they actually move and rotate around that. Well, there's been 6 experiments which prove that the Earth doesn't move. And so how can the pole star stay directly above our quote unquote our North Pole and never move? They have found 5,000-year-old star charts. The stars remain the same. So think about this. So we're supposed to be spinning 1,000 miles an hour, and then we're supposed to be going around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour. That's 1 year. So then they want to say that the sun is also moving on the galactic plane at 666,000 miles an hour. So not only the Earth's spinning, and then we're going around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, but the sun itself, we're moving behind it in a spiral. The sun itself is moving through the galactic plane at 666,000 miles an hour. Now they want to tell us that our whole galaxy is actually moving through the universe because of the energy of the Big Bang at 1.3 million miles an hour. So you got to...
Hey, hold on, Jacker.
Yeah.
We'll pick it up on the other side. Be right back, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'll give Jacker a chance to finish up with his thought, but just a really quick commentary. This was one of the things that absolutely convinced me as well, as far as the parallax and how it is that, you know, the stars, if we're supposedly moving, and the sun is also, as far as the solar system, is also moving around the galactic center, and then the whole Milky Way as galaxy is also moving around some grand universal center. How it is that the stars remain similar for over thousands of years, and the constellations all remain the same, and the Polaris as a North Star has been, captains on ships at night have been able to use it to ascertain direction in continuing their voyages and to navigate by it. It just does not make sense. And two of the other things were the lunar phases and how they have also remained constant. And then the other thing was the hours of night and day, how it is that if we're moving in 6 months on the other side of the sun, how the hours of night and day aren't flip-flop, but all we have to do is adjust for an hour, daylight savings time. All that just did not make sense to me. I'll go to Jacker, finish up your thought, brother, and then we'll go to Ro.
Yeah, just one more minute, because I don't want people's head get dizzy when you're using big numbers. They can't put it all together. But basically, the people who give us the globalist Luciferian model want us to believe that we're ripping through the universe at like Star Trek Mach 9. I mean, we're moving so fast, folks, it would make your head spin. In fact, I actually did the math one time on the amount of miles that we actually move. And we move like 1 trillion miles every 150 or 200 years. So they want us to believe that in the last 2,000 years that we have moved through the universe 6 or 7 trillion miles, and yet all the stars remain the same. And to finish it up, one guy did an experiment in his backyard. He took a 3/4 inch steel galvanized pipe, 6 foot long. He set it up and put the pole star, the North Star, directly in it. And for the next 2 years, as a hobby, when it was clear, once or twice a week, he would go out. And in 2 years, he never saw that pole star move out of that little 3/4 center of the galvanized pipe. But there's just so much of it. Once you start digging into it, Eric Dubé's got a good video, 200 proofs why we're not on a spinning globe. It's a mountain of evidence when you actually take a look at the flat Earth and really the enclosed Earth in its totality. It's a mountain of evidence. When you take a look at the global model, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. They don't even have a real picture of Earth from space. Not even one. You would think they would have millions. They don't even have one real picture. And I mean, think about it, folks. Think about what it would be worth to have a satellite with a designated camera that shows the Earth and the weather patterns on the Earth. that one camera showing the Earth in real time spinning would be worth literally trillions of dollars. When you talk about when you can see hurricanes forming and bad weather patterns forming, how it could save crops, a loss of life, storms, property damage. It would be one camera that would actually show the spin of the Earth and what's happening as far as the weather patterns would be worth literally trillions of dollars. Yet we don't have it. But yeah, there's so much stuff. Zen, I could go on for 45 minutes, but anyways, go ahead. Yeah, the stars did it for me.
Well, yeah, that what you had mentioned as far as the lack of evidence, and when we supposedly have 20,000 satellites up there, and NASA, as far as composite images of the spherical Earth, why we don't have all this mountains of evidence of photos and videos, and even a 24-hour live feed, where anybody could go to it any day of the week and watch the Earth in its supposed glory from space is another reason why I don't buy into the heliocentric model anymore. Mr. Rowe, let me ask you the same question. What were a few of the things that led to you understanding that we had been lied to as far as heliocentrism?
Well, there are a lot of inconsistencies, and like I was kind of mentioning in chat, is every 6 months, we're looking at different stars at night. We're on the other side of the sun. Or supposed to be looking at different stars at night, but we
Right.
see the same stars. So that kind of stuck in my head, and I kind of had to draw it out and look at it. And Matthew Powerland and I talked about it, and he pointed it out to me, and that's one inconsistency. Another thing is, like I said earlier, I worked for TRW. We make spy satellites.
Right.
We make satellites that can tell you what type of gas you have in your car. Okay, there's satellites that can see through walls, and you're right. We have the SOHO satellites looking at the sun, but we can't make a satellite that is going to look at the Earth in a full picture in real time that will actually show the clouds moving. And every picture that we see of the Earth is a little bit different. The color's a little bit off when you compare them. The one from 1970 whatever is different from the one from 1980 whatever, and the clouds they don't move. So is it real or is it a painting? That's the thing. So there are many inconsistencies. Recently they released a photo of the moon in transit going, in front of the Earth. And first off, the moon looked like it was a flat pancake. I mean, it was I don't know. There's the lens, forced perspective or what? Yeah, okay, whatever. And the Earth in the background is filling the entire sky. And you look at that and you say, wait a minute, here's a picture of the entire moon with the Earth filling the whole horizon, or the whole sky. But when you look at the supposed photos of the Earth from the moon landing, it's a tiny dot. Now, how does that work? There's these kind of inconsistencies. And yes, we have, supposedly, we have the technology and the resources to go and see what's beyond the pole in Antarctica. There's even talk of pyramids that have been discovered down there. Photos of pyramids. That in and of itself is kind of an interesting deal. Maybe there's an entrance into the hollow part, into the lower areas of the Earth. But what are they hiding? This is the questions that I have. So I don't subscribe to the conventional globe model that there's something they're hiding. And is it a Shangri-La? Are we in a thermal pocket? Is it part of a larger ice world? I don't know, because we have not been allowed to use scientific method. My interview with Matthew Powerland was just about that. He proposed to have several teams. The globalists go on one team, the Hollow Earth team, the Flat Earth team, that team, whatever team. Everybody go in a straight line. And have, basically a physical line that goes from point A to point B, and see if you can either cross the Antarctic and look like a fool on the other side. They say, see, it was a ball, stupid. Or keep going and see if there is a frontier, if there is more land. And can you imagine? Maybe the elite know of another place, and that's why they don't give a crap about all of the pollution and all the chemtrails. That's why they want to subject this place like it's a sandbox for them. We are nothing but an experiment in this little pocket because they've got a better one somewhere. I don't know. These are questions that come up in my head, And yeah, some of the things that make me just want go, this I know we're being lied to. Don't know the truth yet, but I'm under investigation on it. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that yet remain, and I'm, still in the process of reevaluating so many things, as I'm sure all of you are. And this also leads me to a question that just came up in the chat room from Dre. He says, "I've been looking into impact craters here and the moon. Any thoughts?" And let me and elaborate just a little bit, and then I'll get you guys to comment, because I had to reassess my work as far as Planet X, Nibiru, and these other planets, ancient aliens on Mars, and the Sumerian mythology and how they declare that they established way stations on the moon and also on Mars, and
Zach, can I interrupt you?
uh,
Just,
yeah,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
but you brought real quick, Watts. When you're talking about Planet X, there is something that can be seen from the station in Antarctica. It's Neumayer, the Dutch station, the Neumayer, or it's a
Mhm,
German
mhm.
station. Uh, that may be an object that is over this larger world that's coming in. I just there is something there. Planet X may be something transient that comes across our plane of existence, whether it may be a large ice ball or a flat plane of infinite. I don't know, but sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to mention that.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine, and I'll give you actually a chance to elaborate after I lay out this premise. But and so I've had to reassess and reevaluate, and like I've seen videos recently of people that are using telescopes and looking really closely at planets like Venus, and they show these sacred, almost geometric patterns, and like they are frequencies, almost like waves of energy, and you can see through them. And so I'm having to question whether planets are, a terraform in any way. And also with this particular model, the Earth being of much larger proportion than the sun, even if these so-called planets, these wandering stars, are objects, actual physical objects and not just luminaries, if they're orbiting around the sun and the sun is of much smaller size, well, then how much terraform can they really be? I mean, they're certainly not planets as what we think of the earth as a plane, with all this massive amounts of room and space, and being created as a place of habitation for all these creatures and continents and mountains. How much, if they are actual physical objects, how much land can they have if they are really orbiting the sun, and the sun is supposedly 32 miles across and 3,000 miles up? How does all that work? And as far as Planet X, if it is an object, then what is it? Because certainly, we know that the Earth in this particular model, as far as the flat Earth, that the Earth is not casting a shadow onto the moon during a lunar eclipse. And so there has to be another object out there which is uh, doing that and creating that as far as phenomena. And so there are things which might possibly objects that are part in the firmament, and that like a brown dwarf star. I don't know what it is, but certainly something creates the lunar eclipses, because the model, as far as lunar eclipses have occurred with both the sun and the moon above the horizon. And so we know that for a fact it's not the shadow of the earth which is doing so. And so let me get you to elaborate first, Ro, and then we'll go to Jacker.
Well, I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, big question. Yeah.
um, no, I have some of the same kind of questions, and I'm kind of drawing a visual in my head. uh, it's boy. Uh, Being someone that's kind of in the middle, I just can't, I don't have the answer. I'm just kind of like you, so I can't just,
Right.
the words aren't coming out of my mouth. I have speculation, and under my model is, my particular personal model is more of akin to us being contained within a thermal pocket on a much larger sphere. Um, and that it isn't flat, or it is flat from our perspective because it is that much larger. Maybe an ice world. I don't know if it's 5 times larger, 10 times larger, or even twice as large. I don't know if that we are taking up half of this ice planet, or a quarter of it, or a tenth, or 100th of it. Um, but this is what my gut is leaning toward. As far as the sun, I'm thinking that if it is only 32 miles across and just a few thousand miles away, that it is, it is our sun, yes, and there are others like it probably just above the planet in over other ice pockets, if you will. It's possible that the hollow Earth is connection into a much larger world that may connect this world with another world, Shangri-La or Atlantis, or even what we think of maybe as Mars. And aliens may come from just other places along this sphere. And might be what they're hiding when we see a globe picture of our Earth. It's cropped, and you can actually check out some of the NASA images, and they are cropped for whatever reason. So we're getting partial truths. I think we're seeing space is there, planets are there. I think that when we launch something into space and it keeps going, we don't just send it out over the ocean and then it falls and then we go. That I think that we have half of the sort of a lot of half or quarter truths on what's going on. There is a secret space program. Yeah, there is galaxies and things. I do believe this is my personal. I don't think they're just wandering planets. But this is again all speculation. So I'm kind of merging the two together. But this is where I'm coming from my standpoint, because I've seen launches and I've tracked satellites and I've pointed them at things, and but then again I've never seen an entire real time video image of the Earth, and it is 2016 where we're mapping the brain and using nanotechnology and supposedly putting cars on the moon back in the 70s. So anyway, go ahead.
All right, I'll come back to you in just a few minutes because I got a couple other questions as far as satellites. But Jacker, let me get you to answer what we were talking about as far as the wandering stars and Planet X and all that.
Right. So Zen, is this an hour show or a 2 hour show?
It's 2 hours.
Oh, okay, good. Because I would have to get rough with Mr. Rowe. You see, the problem is I'm a flat Earth master warrior. I damn near know about 98% of any kind of question, and I can basically punch a hole in anything at my choosing. That's how good I am. The moon. The moon's real simple. So people are taking videos of the moon. They've actually seen a lunar wave where it looks like the moon is resetting. They say, well, what about the craters? Well, what about the craters? During the day, when you look up at the moon, and you see, quote unquote, those craters, why is it that when you look through those craters, it is the same color as the rest of the sky? It's blue. But then at night, it's dark. Why is it that people have actually filmed stars through those holes in the crater? So the moon is a very odd type of, some people want to say maybe it's even a hologram. Its light is actually cold. 10 to 12 degrees colder. You can actually do this. People have done experiments. Just go on YouTube. They take a little temperature gun. They shoot a piece of metal out in the open in the moonlight, and they see how, and it's cold. It's colder than a piece of metal that's under shade. 5, 10, during a full moon, or if you magnify it, 10, 12 degrees difference. So the moon has its own light.
Really? It's colder. I didn't know that.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an
absolutely.
interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, verifiable. Now, as far as the stars and the planets, it is just, I'm under a biblical model. These are luminaries. Zen just wrote a book about it in regards to Enoch. No, there's no space, no secret space program. Nobody's gotten through that dome. Satellites are probably a combination of a helium field um, type of balloon, and maybe works off solar panels, and they can keep them up there. But really, we have no pictures of a field of 22,000 satellites. In fact, Google is now going to put up at the 40th parallel a whole series of balloons with cameras on them all across the whole, just above the equator. And so that's not true. When you take a look at the stars through telescopes outside of NASA, you'll see planets, like you'll see Pluto, which, by the way, just take a look at the photograph that NASA gives us of Pluto, and you can actually take the dog Pluto in Disney and match it, sync it right up to that little spot on Pluto. It's all made up, all the Mars stuff. We now know there's a Mars experiment off the coast of Canada, Greenland, on an island. They actually have the NASA rover, Challenger, whatever thing. It's all one big deception. They haven't got out of it. So, no, if you got any questions on it at all, and these twinkly things, when you actually take a look, what Zen talked about, geometrical, multicolored, they seem to be a different class of beings, which even in the Bible, it talks about the stars of heaven will fall to earth. How does that work?
Right.
Scriptures. You would turn the Bible into Swiss cheese if it wasn't what it said it was as far as a flat earth. But these are two questions I have for Zen. One I have for Zen, which is a revelation, and really I'd like for Zen to do it. But so the Bible talks about that we are on a circle, like a flat pizza pancake, and that God basically, he inscribed the earth like a seal. So when you back up and you take a look at the UN map or the AZ map that Zen talked about, so God described a seal. So now I don't know Hebrew, Zen, but I got to taking a look at the shape of the continents and the planets in Indonesia and the continents and the nations and the way our thing. And I don't know if you can spell out the name of Yeshua in Hebrew, but somebody like you who knows that kind of stuff, you ought to take a look as the earth as a signature, just like the Bible talks about, as a seal. And then my other questions then, well, that's something for you to look at, but kind of a revelation which is out of my league. And I do think there is actually more land on the side of in the Pacific Ocean where there's a large body of water and there is no land. Could it be? Because a lot of people went looking for land back there. They say there's a lost continent. So maybe Atlantis is there. Maybe there's a high-tech civilization on a continent in which none of our planes go to. It's a completely different continent that we know nothing about, way out in the middle of the Pacific. And then my other questions then, because I am a flat earth master warrior, I am really angry now. I mean, it's to the point of, it's righteous anger, let me put it that. It's not quite rage, but I'm angry at Ken Hovind, this big creationist.
Oh, Hovind, yeah.
Right, I'm angry at Steve Quayle. They can click a few buttons. They got all the information I got. It is without question a flat earth where the stars are hung like a curtain. Even the galactic rift syncs up with the Bible, where God was so angry there was a war in heaven, and he ripped open the skies, and he cast Lucifer and the fallen ones down, and then God didn't even close up the galactic rift that good. Just let everybody know, look, there's a rip actually into heaven. But I'm mad at these teachers, and they know the truth, and why are they going along with what we now know is the great deception, which is the global satanic corporate, reptilian spinning ball, Big Bang, evolution, aliens are out there from other planets are going to come. Why, Zen? Why are these quote unquote men of God, uh, this flat earth spiritual vortex is devouring these guys, just ripping their honor out, reducing their lives to a lie? That's what I don't get, Zen. Why? What? Where are all these great pastors and teachers? I mean, we got Rob Skiba, okay? Rob Skiba, he's been out there for a long time. He's got the correct model, I believe, but even he won't fully commit. So what is it, Zen, about all of these mainline, even alternative truthers that believe in 9/11 and know all this stuff? Why do they stop at the water's edge of flat Earth? Go ahead, Zen.
Well, I can't really speak for all of them, but I believe that a lot of it has to do with they think it's ludicrous and they already think that, all these scientists have determined it otherwise. And because of that, they're not even willing to investigate it or to look into it. And, there's a lot of people. Michael Heiser just wrote a paper about talking about how lunatic it was to even believe that the earth is flat without doing a lick of investigation into it. And a lot of people come from that same perspective. Because they think it is absolute lunacy and ludicrous, that they won't look into it. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. And I'll address Jacker's comments just a little bit more. As far as the people that are just out there and that aren't alternative truth broadcasters, or individuals like Michael Heiser or Dr. Kent Hovind or Steve Quell, and that have big audiences of people that follow their work and that look up to them in guidance and direction, to help them to determine what truth is. I think that anybody that has a listening audience or a flock that looks to them for guidance and direction, that everybody in that kind of a role has a responsibility to really know what they're talking about, as far as which way they lean on any particular issue, whether it's the serpent seed or pre-existence or anything of that nature. Because I know a lot of the things that I teach are very controversial, but I never declare a position or specifically write a book about anything that I have not investigated very thoroughly. And that every book that I write, even though the topic is controversial, there are 200 plus resources and references which people can go to study the sources that I have used to come to such determination. And so in the scriptures, it says, he that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is a folly and a shame unto him. And in Thessalonians, it says, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. And so it's my opinion that everybody, especially, like the individuals that I mentioned and all of the others, which have people looking to them to help them to find truth and to understand the scriptures and their connection to truth, that we are to remain open-minded before just making a determination, or before a saying that it is this way with a surety, because of that, as far as our being watchmen, and that we are responsible for sounding the trumpet on truth and warning the public. And it's my opinion, absolutely, that the heliocentric and the Darwinian also connection to heliocentrism, and now the next part, which I believe has to do with the ancient aliens being asserted as our creators, that all of that has absolute connection to the strong delusion. And as such, people, alternative truth leaders, broadcasters, writers, authors, whatever, that they have a responsibility to remain unbiased and open-minded when confronting or declaring this topic as ludicrous, which is, one of the reasons why I began to research it. And I know this is also one of the reasons why Rob Skiba opened himself. And of course, we all thought that we would be able to debunk it in one afternoon, with a few hours of investigation. But when you really do so, and when you really begin to look at the postulations which are not set in stone, which are not concrete, and the theories which all assert that we live on a globe and that the Earth as a planet is spheroid. There's much, so many holes into all of those theories that even after one afternoon, I found myself wondering why I ever bought into and believed in a globe Earth to begin with. And so I'm going to get you guys to comment on that as well. But
Let me jump. Yeah.
let me bring this up first, because Ro, I know that you work with you say you work with a company that creates spy satellites, and in my opinion, satellites is another whole other question I have, especially when you consider the thermosphere and the supposed temperatures of the thermosphere, how these satellites could exist when they are made of all these malleable, as far as gold or solar panels and things like that, which should not be able to at least maintain their integrity in those kind of extremes in temperature, whether they're exposed to the sun directly or when the sun is not shining upon them, and then they're the other way, the extremes are very, very cold and very hot when the sun is upon them. And so let me get you to answer that first, and then we'll go to Jacker and get him to comment on what I said with the opening of this last segment. And I would also like you, Ro, to answer, or comment on what I just said before the satellite question. We'll go to you in just a few minutes here, Jacker. Ro?
All right. Sure. Yeah. Well, I've seen the satellites. I've been in some of the clean rooms and have participated in some of the actual manufacture of these satellites, and there are components that are delicate. They have solar sails on some of them. Others are actually quite robust. They are, of course, protected during the launch phase until they're deployed, and then their outer shell is basically jettisoned away, and some of them unfold themselves, and there are others that can actually maneuver. They have fuel cells on board, or even some of the older ones. I don't know if this is information I should be saying. Well, they have things that have nuclear powered. So as far as the satellites being subjected to extreme temperatures, the electronics work very well in cold temperatures, and they're pretty well shielded. So that was never really an issue as far as that. Nothing that I was ever involved in any question of whether it would survive. But I kind of take it for granted that the way you have to kind of consider gravity. What is gravity? That's a question that Tesla kind of proposed, that gravity was not even a pulling or a pushing force, but more of like we're all in a soup, kind of like if we were all suspended in a gel, and the gel just moves around. Everything sort of moves in unison. So there's this constant movement, I guess, toward things. That things attract this soup, if you will, this ether that we're all part of. And I guess the further away from the object that you're getting, the less is the pull, which is what is supposedly orbit. if it's flat, if the Earth is flat, then the orbit, is it a circular orbit, or so this I don't know. uh, if it, I always thought that satellites were real. I've been in a control room and to have pictures and seen the Earth in not the entire Earth, but I've seen objects in real time. I've monitored traffic from space. So I know that we put something up there with optics that can look down from a great distance. This is real because we, for fun, even zoomed in on our own office, and when we did tests, this was back in the early 21st century. But you launch a new system up there, an optical system, maybe data mapping system or something, and then you start seeing if you can wave at it for fun. So yes, we put something up there high up that does maintain the orbit. So I know that's real. Just where, if there's a dome, I don't know how high that dome is. I personally don't really think there is a dome. But then again, I can't prove it either way. I have not seen evidence of one. Although I subscribe more of that we are being lied to and there is more land. So the sphere that we built in, but like to kind of segue into your other question, is the schism is still there for me. I'm like a pendulum. I get up in the morning, and depending on the position of the moon and the weather, I may be thinking, well, maybe the Earth is a ball. And then I come to my senses, and I go, wait a minute,
Right.
I don't know. I just don't know. And that, some people say, well, it's a psyop. The whole flat Earth movement is a psyop. This guy is blah, 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 and it's just made to discredit everybody in the movement, and you're all going to look like fools, and da, da. Well, I think we're all under one big psyop in a lot of other aspects. Our whole existence is a psyop. The money system is a psyop. The paradigm that we live in is a psyop. The way that we have to get up and do busy work every day, and we cannot progress our species intellectually or spiritually, that's a psyop by the elites. So, I look at the map of the UN, the symbol of the UN, and I look at my own personal evidence, like how come I can see New Orleans 15, 20 miles out on a flat day? That doesn't make sense. So there is a lot of the schism's still there. I know and that's just because I don't have a concrete answer. That's just me, but there are things that kind of make me go, like the whole satellite thing. So I know we can put them up there. I know we launch things into space. So yeah, that's my comment on that. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's go to Jacker because I know he's probably got some interesting questions he wants to.
Yeah, well, you've seen screens and you've seen data come across, Mr. Rowe, but we've got no pictures of any satellites. Every single rocket we see shoot up, we now know through actually hundreds of videos. The rockets go up for a little while, then they arc over, and then it just arcs over and it just goes out and it shuts down. Supposedly they magically pop through. We've got the footage of the German rocket going up 73 miles and then basically hitting something where the rocket just stops dead. And then
I did see that one. You mean that little one and it kind of goes click and then it starts falling? That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
You can see the moon. We got footage from old B-52s launching the X-15 at 317,000 feet, horizon, razor sharp. Now, if there are satellites, maybe it works off a combination of they filled it with helium and it's got a solar panel so they can kind of control it, or maybe it revolves around the magnetic mountain, which supposedly is in the North Pole. So the whole satellite thing's up in the air, but just because maybe the satellites are being put in the ocean to monitor the who knows?
Hey, sure. I wonder, Jacker, if it's maybe they do have. I'm being serious now, respectfully, really. Maybe they have figured out a way to do like this anti-gravity thing, where they're not telling us, but this is part of the top secret thing, where they use a conventional rocket to get it up to a certain point, and then they throw the rocket away into the water, and they use this secret anti-gravity technology to keep the satellite up there.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah, they could, but it's not getting out of the dome because I have seen nothing that proves anything has gone up more than about 73, 74 miles before, whether it's a weather balloon or, like I said, a B-52. Look at that old footage in the 1950s where it releases the X-15 at 317,000 feet. And, that back then they couldn't hide the curvature of the Earth. In other words, they couldn't use a GoPro. And so you can see razor sharp as far as the eye can see. It's as obvious as day. But I want to just pick one more up with these supposedly truthers, these Christians, creationists inside the alternative Christian truth movement, so to speak, like Steve Quayle, like Ken Hovind, and the rest of them. Why they won't come clean, Zen, and they got the stuff at their fingerprints. I don't think it's ignorance anymore. I think they fully know. I think they know exactly what they're doing. They can click some buttons. I mean, they can take their little cell phone camera, put a filter on it, take a picture at the sun at high noon, and then wait for as the sun goes down, and then take another picture and ask themselves, why did the sun lose 80% of its size? They can do it. So this is what I think's happening, Zen. I think, and Rob Skiba, he's getting mad too. He's getting mad like the rest of us. In fact, he may lead the Civil War. But if you take a look at, if you want to say that you believe the Bible is the inherent word of God, and you match it up, unless you believe in a flat earth, you have got to literally rip every single book of your Bible to Swiss cheese. I mean, all the way from Jesus died and he ascended, what comes up? When he ascended, he will descend in the clouds, to the sun stopping for Joshua, to the sun backing up 10 paces, to just tons and tons of other scriptures in the Bible. So Steve Quayle does not believe the Bible is the inherent word of God. Let's face it. Ken Hovind, he does not believe that. They don't believe in a literal inherent word of God. They're masquerading. They're standing around with these wicked ones, with NASA, who believe in the Big Bang and evolution and a spinning godless ball, materialism. I thought that Chuck Missler, he was about to come out for flat Earth, and he came up with he believes it's a flat Earth, but he's got this digital model. He kind of put a spin on it, but then he lost his wife a couple of months ago, and I think his kid a couple of days ago. He was crying on air. Chuck's not going to lead it. He's all shot up. Chuck is shot up. I thought Chuck Missler was going to be the great guy that was going to bust through. So right now it's Rob Skiba as far as the teachers in that particular field that are about to say, hey, look, Ken Hovind, you don't believe in the inherent word of God. Shut your mouth. Steve Quayle, shut your mouth. You got 400 scriptures and counting now, which you can't square up with the Bible unless the earth is flat. But anyways, Zen, I had to get that in there. Go ahead.
All right. Well, my final comment on all that is that I think a lot of those individuals, because as I said, that they think it's ludicrous, they're unwilling to look at it. Maybe some of them know. I don't know. I can't really make that determination for them. But a lot of people, I know, just people that are unwilling to investigate it, they're scared. They're scared to embrace it as possibility because they don't want to be called, lunatic. They don't want to be called insane, because certainly that is a part of it. I know that when I came out and went public with this, I had a lot of people telling me that, my credibility was going to be shot out because of this. But I'm standing for truth. I don't care about credibility. The only thing I care about is my relationship to the Most High, and in being a watchman, I have to stand with truth. And so this is the truth as I've come to know it. And absolutely, you're correct that if you are going to accept the gospel as the inerrant word of God, well, then you have to open yourself to the possibility of the earth being flat and a firmament being fitted above it, because that is what is scriptural.
Right, but it's worse than that, Zen. It's worse than that. By these supposed pastors and these teachers and these these big people, sort of quote unquote, in the Christian movement, what they are doing, Zen, is that we now can see what the ancient aliens are. We know they're the fallen ones. We know about the serpent seed line among us. We know about the great deception that they're these progenitors who actually seeded our planet millions of years ago are going to come back at the last minute, and we're their fathers. So, I mean, they're our fathers, and they're going to help us heal the earth and help us live longer. And they're setting us up. They're setting all these Christians up, Zen, for the great deception. I mean, you're talking people like Steve Quayle, Kenneth Hovind, lots of them. And so how could they stand with the NASA liars, the evolutionist, the Darwinist, I mean, the Big Bang people, to come up with this incredible lie? When you start to look at a spinning ball globe model, it is just like, how could anybody ever believe that? I mean, it's just like so insane as people think of people that believe that the earth is flat. Once you actually research it and you find out the true structure of the earth, you sit back and you say, how could I have been so stupid to believe in a spinning ball earth, stars trillions of miles away, and all the machinations? And yeah, you can take a flight from Alaska and then you get out at the south, at the equator, and even though the earth is spinning 500 miles an hour or less, you don't need to get in a barrel chamber. You don't get sick because you come from a place where it's not spinning so fast to the equator where it's going like 1,000 miles an hour. The whole thing is just ridiculous. It's just, the more you look at it, the more buttons you click, it's just like, wow, how could I ever believe that? Anyways, Zen, you can see it's just that the great deception is coming. We now know what it is, and I'm upset because these people are part of they're going along with the deception, and I don't understand it, Zen. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I can't answer for you on that, but I do agree. Um, I want to ask you again, Ro, a question as far as satellites before I lose the thought on all that. If there's all these, because they say there's 20,000 satellites up there in the thermosphere and even higher, which is very high temperatures. And if they are up there, um, they're not, they never fail and they are never serviced, and none of them are ever, as far as the news, mainstream news, none of them are ever reported as running into each other. How is it that all of these countries and all of these companies, because when y'all launch a satellite, I mean, are you having to track where all these other ones are? I mean, how is it that none of them have run into anything that is launched up there, if they're the space shuttles or whatever, or have run into the International Space Station if that is supposedly up there? I mean, how do they keep all that together, and how come no satellite ever has to be, everything else fails, and everything, especially if they've been up there orbiting for 10, 20 years. How is that possible, Ro?
Well, first off, some of them do fail. We've lost satellites. We've sent them up there. We've had them deployed and can't contact them. They're dead. We've had them just turn off. We've had them be hacked. The Navy decommissioned some old communication satellites and now has a problem with hackers that have turned them back on and are using them for their own things. So satellites do fail. They have tumbled out of orbit at times. I've never heard of a satellite collision. I have heard of them, being out of control and losing track, though. And yes, they do. They are tracked by the launcher, and also NORAD tracks every single object. As far as the American contingent, the European Space Agency also tracks everything, as well as the Russians and the Chinese and the Indians. But occasionally one does have to be repaired, and they will launch a mission. A lot of these top secret missions are classified. They'll be launched out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, or maybe Guam, or an island near Guam or something out there near Palau. They have a facility, and they also track them from the Pine Gap. But Yeah, so they do have malfunctions. There's a lot of room up there. Satellites are rarely bigger than a car, although there are a few big ones. But there is a lot of room. It is kind of a wonder that you can launch something and it doesn't get hit. And
Yeah.
I've kind of wondered that myself. So, but
Mr. Rowe, I don't see where's the evidence. Where's a picture? Where's where's any type of evidence besides data coming through a computer screen? Now
okay.
the
I now the only that what I can tell you, Jacker, is I've seen personally with my own eyes, the parking lot of where I'm working on a tracking station on a satellite that we launched to map the Earth, and I have seen in real time my coworkers outside waving, so I know that is occurring. Unless they've got a plane up there, so. Like I said, I don't know if it's anti-grav or whatever. I just think that maybe gravity's lighter up there, but that it does work. Somehow the physics are in place that we can put pieces of metal up high enough where they'll float around up there for whatever reason, and we can get data from them. So that's what I've seen. But again, I've never seen real time pictures of the Earth in full. Although we have the sun and all this supposedly. So these are interesting questions that I also have. What are they hiding? And the Antarctic question is also big in my brain. Is why can't we do a mission across that polar ice? And they're saying it's even more inhospitable than space, which is kind of weird.
Well, I mean, why is Google going to put up 60 balloons with all kinds of cameras on it and float it at the 40th parallel? Why is Google doing this? We had a Lorenz system back in the 1950s. There was worldwide transmissions, radio transmissions that went to India all the way back to 1900. The people that do they get on the radio, the radio people, the ham radio operators. They say they can actually bounce signals off of the dome, off of the ionosphere, and that if there is a glass dome up there, maybe they're banging signals off that. Maybe they're attached to the glass dome.
Hey, hold on, guys. We'll be right back, and then we'll answer some of these questions. All right, welcome back, everybody, for final segment. I just want to state really quick that Rogue, we certainly aren't attacking you in any way, brother. I think it's interesting that, as far as the kind of job that you do, and I've never had a chance to ask anybody with your kind of expertise about some of the questions that I'm bringing forth, and so I appreciate, your insight on all of these things. Now, one other question before we leave this particular topic, as far as you say that they're being serviced, is that some of the satellites, is that kind of like manned missions or other kind of, I don't know, robotic or anything? And if they are manned missions, how is that, and would that be possible with the Van Allen radiation belts? Because supposedly there's these three radiation belts that are impenetrable, and that NASA, with the Orion missions, the supposed manned Mars missions, that they are and have to consider not being able to get through these radiation belts, and them being detrimental to the health of any kind of human that goes through them. And along with that, also wanted to get you to answer what you thought of, because if you do believe in other terraform out there, in the secret space program, do you think that we have other people living on colonies like in Mars, as is reported, and what that possibility might be like? All right, and then we'll go to Jacker after you.
All right. Yeah. Now the Van Allen belt, first off, is I think a little further out than, let's say, LEO or low Earth orbit, where like the International Space Station is in low Earth orbit, what they call LEO. Then you have GPS satellites. They're, I think, about 12,000 miles out, and that's higher up than the inner belt, which is I think about 10,000 miles, 8,000 miles out between the GPS and the low Earth orbit. I think there's 2 or 3 Van Allen probes that are out there. There's Van Allen Probe A and Probe B. Probe B is the furthest one out, and that is about 22,000 miles out in geosynchronous orbit. And the outer Van Allen belt is about 25,000 miles, about 12 to 25,000 miles. So it's far enough away now from the satellites that are in low Earth orbit where it's not really a problem. Also, if the radiation, if there was too much radiation, the electronics wouldn't work unless they were shielded. Yes, there are manned missions. They basically synchronize with the orbit of the satellite, and it's kind of like docking with the space station. Everything's moving supposedly really fast, but
How fast? Any idea?
17,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, about pretty much. Yeah, Jacker's got it. About 17,000 miles an hour or so. So, but you wouldn't know it, I guess, up there. And supposedly, if you hit a little tiny rock, like a micro meteorite, it'll rip you apart. But they do, on occasion, have missions that go up there. The military will send something up. They do have robots. It's classified that they have automated systems, I should say, that they can send up there and they can launch and they will repair the satellites. In fact, they also have satellites that will attempt to repair themselves. They have redundancies. China has reportedly sent up a few killer satellites that will actually go out there and hunt other satellites. So now we're getting into the world of Now, you asked about the secret space program. I think that there's 2 secret space probes. Breakaway Civilization A, which is left. They've gone. They're like, we'll see you later. They've abandoned us. Good luck. Thanks for all the fish. They're out of here. Then there's Breakaway Civilization B. That they're the ones that have Area 51. They're in contact with the Hollow Earth folks down there in Agartha. They know what's going on. Yes, they've probably broken out past, if you will, the dome, or they may be trying to get out. Supposedly, the whole deal is way back when the Nephilim were trapped here, and this dome is to kind of keep them in the prison.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah.
That John D. made some contact, and the whole deal with nuclear energy and atomic and all this is to learn the basics of the technology that we'll acquire, that we'll need to actually break through. That's a whole other tangent, but that if you aspire to that theory, then we may be just mold on the side of a wall, but I don't know about that. So this whole, if it is a prison planet, it may not be for us. It may be for something else, and also the reason they blew up Marduk or whatever it is between Jupiter and what is the asteroid belt now. Let's see. The other breakaway civilization, they are in contact with our rulers and are probably pulling some of the strings, or at least on a diplomatic basis with our elite and our Black Project corporate government structure. And then, of course, you have the mundane, and that's us and all the technology that we're privy to, which is, I think, just a big show. I think that a lot of folks we're in an actor-based reality. And a lot of the stuff that we see, we know how many false flags there are. Everything's a scam. This is why I buy the model in any direction, because everything is a scam. If you see it on TV, you're meant to see it on TV. Back to you.
All right, real quick comment, and then we'll go to Jacker. I'm in agreement with you as far as that the Nephilim, that they are trying to and have been in working with the governments and also the Masons and secret societies over hundreds and thousands of years, have been trying to find a way to get out. If it is the dome that is keeping them locked into this particular system, that they're not from out there, but they're from here, probably down below. But also a woman that does some reverse speech stuff, Peggy Kane, she talks about this, calls it a net, and how this net is, it keeps them locked into this particular this plane and this particular dimension, and that they have been seeking in effort, maybe even with the Project Fishbowl, and with the nuclear weapons being sent up to try to bust through the dome. Maybe that has something to do with it. But Jacker, you want to say something?
Well, yeah, you're talking about Admiral Byrd in 1956, 57, Operation Deep Freeze. He was all happy. He did like a 60 Minutes type show. He says, yeah, the corporations are lining up. We're going to have private and government expeditions to Antarctica every year. Mountains of coal, gold, silver, plutonium. We're all ready to go. He's all hyped up. He's going to start his Byrd frozen food company. He's really happy. And so then they go down there. He's supposed to be down there for 2 months. He's down there 2 weeks. He comes back, no interviews, nothing. That's the end of him. Basically, he goes to bed completely depressed. And I think he found the edge of the dome. And then right after that, boom, all the countries that are in Antarctica, they all pull off the ice, all 12 nations or whatever. They quickly sign a treaty in 1958. NASA gets going in 1959, and then Operation Fishbowl. The Russians and the United States throw one massive megaton after another. 60 megaton nuclear weapons, and all they're doing is firing them up into the air and blowing them up in space. So this whole thing with satellites, if they're willing to build these massive rockets, which we can see never go anywhere, they just arc over. If they're willing to lie with the Japanese space agency, the Chinese, the Indian, if the lie is so big, what's the big problem with building a couple of little tin box strapped together aluminum foil satellites to keep up the lie? So, satellites at 22,000 miles out from Earth, if they're going to lie about the picture of the Earth, which we caught him 1972, we actually got his arm that went across it. We know the blue marble's fake. How about giving us a picture of the flag on the moon? Try that out. So it's all one big lie. That's my position. Go ahead.
Well, another thing along the lines of what we're talking about, and if the Van Allen radiation belts are preventing, human passengers from being part of, even if it's anti-gravity machines or, supposed UFO type vehicles, that they're able to get out. And even if they were to get beyond a dome, there's the other side of it. Are they using kind of wormhole jump room technology? Because if there is this secret space program and there are these other colonies, it's my opinion that it would have to be with this kind of technology, some kind of wormhole jump room technology, and not anti-gravity or space shuttle type vehicles, with the whole Van Allen radiation belt, and that could also be part of the dome-like protection to keep the Nephilim, the giants, and all of that locked here until judgment, because just like the demon said to Yeshua, have you come to torment us before the time? And that they are seeking different ways to escape so that they can escape from judgment. And if there is this kind of thing, is it like what Andrew Basiago and Laura Magdalene Eisenhower are talking about with this jump room technology, the ability to travel interdimensionally in that kind of way? Because the Emerald Tablets also mention how some of these ancient humans involved with black magic ritual and opening supposed Stargate technology. Is this something that CERN is doing? And that they were inviting into this dimensional plane these interdimensional beings, and that part of the growth of evil and the perpetuation of evil here on this plane of existence was due to their doing such things, and that this was also one of the reasons why judgment was brought upon Atlantis, and these sons of Belial and these priests that were involved in such rituals. So that's a whole other side of it. Ro, in your research, as far as these other um, colonies, and have you heard have you studied anything along that line? I mean, do you know anything about that?
Well, as far as colonies, you mean like, there. Um, I've looked into the possibility that there are breakaway civilization colonies, and possibly even other thermal pockets, if you will, like Atlantis may actually still exist,
Uh-huh.
um, and it may just be over the ice, quite literally. Um, there was something I was going to touch on. Oh, the governments, or the black world, if you will, is known for utilizing dark magicians to contact entities in the beyond the ether, if you will, whether they're
Right.
demonic.
Even John D, right? He was MI6.
Yeah, and that is happening today. There are classified projects right now going on. In fact, if you can even use Google Earth to look down into the southwestern United States and the New Mexico, southern California, Arizona deserts near Area 51, Nevada, and you'll see pentagrams and symbols that
Right.
are on a large scale. And so they're combining. Well, we know that Aleister Crowley worked with Jack Parsons,
Uh-huh.
and then they went on to create the space program, which has also employed lots of Nazis that were also very close to the occult. So, mixing of technology and the occult is going on with CERN, with the Hadron Collider, and other things of the atomic. When I was younger, I used to actually think, my gut told me that every time an atom bomb goes off and you see that nuclear explosion, that mushroom cloud, that's the release of a demon.
Yeah,
Um,
I could see that.
and it's just, that's the demon just jumping for joy, jumping out into this world, and it's it's a dangerous thing. But this is what they're playing with. The nature of reality, I don't know. Maybe it changes. Maybe we jump timelines. I have no idea. The jump room thing, I tend to agree with that. That would be one way of bypassing, um, a shield like the Van Allen belt, if you will. Or it would be a way of, maybe they're duping them too, and they think that they go to Mars, but they're actually going to another part of the pond. Another pond where
Right,
the
right.
and then they relieve this planet, if you will, whatever you want to call it, this plane, and it's just larger than we think, which is kind of what my gut is veering toward. That if we go out over Antarctica and we go in a straight line, eventually we're going to come to another puddle, another world. And I don't know how large it is. I don't know if it's flat around, but I know that they're hiding more land. They're hiding something.
They're definitely hiding something. One other question, and then we're going to go to Jacker. I wanted to ask you, since as far as your job and looking down, have y'all ever looked down, or have you ever seen anybody view like the Antarctic regions or anywhere um, like the supposed Antarctic continent, or seen any kind of other areas, or even like the North Pole and the magnetic mountain in the North Pole? Have you ever peered down or see from satellite technology, or your company viewed anything of that nature as far as either of the poles?
That's a good question. I personally have not. I would, but the nature of the work that I did was extremely compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm sure that somebody did. I wish that I would be able to do it, but no. I wasn't somebody that got a lot of access to do this. In fact, when I did have access to it, it was a treat. It was something that was not a normal thing that I would be doing in my line of work. I just happened to get be there that day and be in the right place at the right time. TRW was scooped up and bought out by a lot of the other defense contracts agencies. A cool movie about that was Falcon and the Snowman, and it was filmed partially down there in Space Park in Redondo Beach, was where they actually built the keyhole satellites and some of these things. But no, unfortunately, I just got to look down on some mundane territory in the United States. That was it.
Right on. Well, if anybody ever lets you know, it'd be interesting if you could share. I certainly don't want you to get yourself in trouble. But Jacker, let me go to you, brother.
Okay. Well, I would only say this, Zen, as far as why 30,000 surveillance drones, why they're building the surveillance drones as fast as they can build them. If they got all this satellite capability, there was a balloon near Washington, D.C. recently that broke loose from its tether and did 40 miles of destruction as it was pulled along the ground. So, this is my point, Zen, is that why not believe the biblical narrative, which is basically, of what your work was, that there was a war in heaven, and that why not believe that God says, you know what, we're not going to finish this war in heaven. He built the earth, he built a beautiful place, and he goes, we're going to finish the war down here, and why not all of us get thrown down here where God can test the spirits. You got free will, and he does rip the sky open. He throws the fallen ones through. Maybe Lucifer got upset when the Lord built this beautiful earth that you could see from heaven, and then he says, my son is the king over this, and maybe that started the war. I don't know, but why not believe the biblical narrative that we're both down here in this enclosed environment? And really, if you boil it all down to, it's about our hearts. It's about what we're going to choose, whether we're going to accept to go God's way and do it the righteous way, or we're going to be rebellious. And so I don't see why somebody can't accept that narrative, especially when we know that 99.9% of everybody that's ever lived never has known the true reality they're in. It all seems to be about some kind of test of the heart and the mind of what kind of person you're going to be, and whether you're going to love, serve, and know God, or you want to do your own thing. So, to add all this other stuff, and there's a rover up there that has endless battery power, and you get Wi-Fi at 3 million miles and controlling it, and all this other, just lies everywhere. Just so many lies. It's beyond, unless somebody can really, and like Mr. Rose said, he was compartmentalized. They all are. So, what are the chemtrails about? I mean, what's all that about? I mean, there's just layer after layer after layer. At the end of the day, you got to say, really, why are we here, and why is this whole demonic system coming into this one world order? And it really has to do with the people's hearts, their spirits, and this place was created, I think, for God to figure out, before you go to the stars, before we build a really good tree fort, my children, you're going to help me build this universe. Before we start building universes, we're going to figure out who's who on this little enclosed earth before I start wowing you and start zipping off planets and black holes and galaxies. And so anyways, I wanted to get that in there, Zen, to let people know really it's about their soul. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And Mr. Rowe, we've got 4 minutes remaining, so I want to give you a chance to tell people again about your radio programs and give you a chance for a final comment.
All right. I just want to agree with Hijacker about what's in your heart. It's purifying your green light chakra and being honorable and seeking the truth. It doesn't really matter about what your current belief is, and it's just that all you want is to find the truth. And everybody may have a slightly different road. You can all go to one city, but you all may start from a different place. So the part of the journey is seeking the truth. My shows are on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, Reality Extraction, Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, Studio B, and Mondays and Tuesdays, 1 to 2 on Studio A. Thank you very much, Zen. Thank you, Hijacker. And it's been an honor and a pleasure.
Hey, I appreciate both of you guys taking the time to join me. We'll have to do it again some other time. But certainly the journey to truth is an interesting one, and there's a lot of parallels. I know that 9/11 was a big catalyst for my own awakening, and that there's been many things in between that I've had to come to truth on. But for the most part, even with this particular topic as far as flat earth, that you cannot come to truth unless you remain open-minded to filling your cup with it, and that if you already have judgment and bias against something, that you certainly will never make room for any kind of new teaching or learning, and that the only way that we can really get to the gist of the matter and really come to revelation on things is by doing the investigation and opening ourselves to new possibility. Jacker, we got 2 minutes. Give you a chance for a final comment.
Yeah, great show. And then Zen also, he's got a show on Revolution Radio at 5 p.m. on, well, actually it would be 8 p.m. On Wednesday night on Studio B. And so I always tune in and listen to that. But, and then I do, I kind of tag team with Deacon John in the afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific time, my time. That would be 5 p.m. East Coast, where it's basically political. Nighthawk basically kicked me off the station because I wanted to do Flat Earth, and Serpent Seed Line, he didn't want to go there, which is okay. I made a compromise, so it's only a political show with Deacon. I don't go into any of this stuff. And sorry, Zen, I was so on war footing and so passionate, but I'm just reaching a level now to where I'm waiting for one of these Christian leaders to, knock it off. They're smart enough. They can click some buttons. But anyway, thanks, Zen, for having me on your show anytime. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. I didn't mean to offend you or anything. Great show.
Great show, Hijacker.
Yeah. God bless everybody.
Yeah, God bless both of you guys. And no, hey, I appreciate your passion, Jacker, because if it weren't for you, I would not have come to revelation on the flat earth as model for world. I would have never began to investigate it, and I would have never have been able to write my latest book, which, for those that don't know, The Flat Earth as Key to Decrypt the Book of Enoch. Anybody that might be interested in it, it covers my whole journey, of awakening to this particular topic and issue. You can go to zengarcia.com or to Zen Garcia on my Facebook page. Contact me about any of my 9 books. And if you're interested, even like with the Serpent Seed Line, my 4th book, Lucifer, Father of Cain, my 5th book, Awaken to the New World Order, my 6th book, Sons of God, Who We Are, Why We're Here, my 7th book, Skyfall, Angels of Destiny, and my 8th book, the Palestinian and Aramaic Targums. So if you're interested, just contact me there. God bless everyone. Good night. Appreciate you, brothers. We'll talk soon.